High Ambassador Vexthor of the Zalaxian Diplomatic Corps stood at the crystalline viewport of the Galactic Council station, his four eyes fixed on the latest human vessel to dock. The ship was, by all conventional standards, ugly, a brutish combination of function over form that somehow epitomized everything about these newcomers to the galactic stage. Another human delegation, his aide, junior diplomat Nixis, asked with a mix of disdain and curiosity in her harmonic voice. "The third this rotation," Vexthor replied, his upper eyes narrowing while his lower pair tracked the scattered patterns of ships moving through the void. "They're requesting trade negotiations with the Meridian cluster." "But that's impossible," Nixis protested, her ceremonial rings chiming as she shifted her weight. "The Meridians haven't accepted new trade partners in 15,000 cycles. They're still deliberating the terms of their spice route agreement with us, and we started those negotiations before I was born." Vexthor's mouth tentacles twitched in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Watch and learn, young one. The humans have a way of making the impossible rather routine." True to his prediction, within 6 standard hours, the human delegation emerged from the Meridian Embassy with preliminary trade agreements in hand. Their lead negotiator, a dark-skinned female named Rajesh, wore the same expression Vexthor had seen countless times on human faces, a mix of satisfaction and barely contained excitement. The Zylaxian diplomat had learned to read human expressions well over the past decade. He had to, given how quickly these upstart primates had risen from their single world to become a force that could no longer be ignored in galactic politics. How do they do it? Nixis wondered aloud, her rings vibrating in frustration. They break every protocol, ignore centuries of established diplomatic procedure, and yet they succeed, Vexthor finished, because they understand something that we, in our wisdom and tradition, forgot long ago. Adaptation is not just about survival, it's about thriving. He gestured toward another viewport, where a massive stellar engineering project was visible in the distance. Humans and Andromedans worked side by side, constructing what would become the galaxy's first cross-species solar harvesting array. The humans had proposed the project just 2 years ago, and somehow convinced the notoriously solitary Andromedans to collaborate. "They call it thinking outside the box," Vexthor continued. "At first I thought it was just another of their curious idioms. Now I understand it's the foundation of their entire civilization." A commotion near the central chamber drew their attention. A group of human engineers was demonstrating a new terraforming technique to representatives from 12 different species. The humans had somehow developed a method to accelerate planetary transformation using modified extremophile bacteria from Earth's deep oceans. It was precisely the kind of innovative solution that had become their hallmark. "Their lifespans are so short," Nixis observed, her tone softening. "Perhaps that's why they rush so. They cannot afford to wait centuries for diplomatic consensus." Vexthor clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "No, young one. Their short lives are not a limitation. They're a catalyst. Every human knows they have limited time to make their mark on the universe, so they pour their entire being into whatever they pursue." As if to emphasize his point, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A radiation storm, far larger than any in recent memory, was approaching the system. Standard procedure called for an immediate evacuation, but the humans at the terraforming demonstration were already rushing to their ships, not to flee, but to deploy experimental shield generators they'd been developing. "By the first light, they're going to try to protect the station," Nixis gasped. "Of course they are," Vexthor replied, watching as human vessels moved into position around the station. "It's what they do. They see a problem, and instead of debating the proper response, they act." The radiation storm hit with devastating force, but the human shields held. Their ships took damage, their crews risked their lives, but they protected not just themselves, but every species on the station. In the aftermath, as repair crews swarmed through the affected areas, Vexthor noticed something remarkable. Other species were following the humans' lead, working alongside them without waiting for official authorization. "They're changing us," Nixus realized aloud. "They are," Vexthor agreed. "And perhaps that's exactly what this galaxy needed. The Council sees them as crude, impulsive, and dangerous. But I've learned to see them differently. They are catalysts of change, breakers of stagnation, and above all, they are survivors who want everyone else to survive alongside them." As he watched humans and aliens working together to repair the station, Vexthor felt a profound shift in his understanding. The humans hadn't just arrived in the galaxy. They were transforming it, one impossible achievement at a time. And despite all his years of diplomatic training telling him this should be concerning, he found himself looking forward to whatever impossible thing they would do next. The humans were here to stay, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the radiation storm incident, Vexthor found himself in an unprecedented situation, attending the Human Trade Summit on their newly established space station, Concordia. The station itself was a testament to human ingenuity. Constructed from recycled ships and asteroids, it somehow managed to accommodate the environmental needs of 37 different species simultaneously. "They're calling it the Galactic Exchange," Trade Minister Kilara informed him, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated severe anxiety. "It's completely unauthorized by the Council." Vexthor watched as hundreds of ships from dozens of civilizations docked at the station. Among them were vessels from species that hadn't traded with each other in millennia. Most shocking were the reclusive Nexari ships, their bioorganic hulls pulsing with colors that hadn't been seen outside their isolated system in living memory. "The Nexari are here," he breathed, all 4 eyes widening. "How did the humans convince them to come?" "They didn't," came a familiar voice. Rajesh, the human negotiator he'd met earlier, approached with a warm smile. "We simply created a space where they felt comfortable coming. No Byzantine trade agreements, no 1,000-year contracts. Just simple, straightforward commerce." The main trading floor of Concordia was a chaos that somehow worked. Holographic displays showed real-time market values in multiple currencies, including the new universal credit system the humans had introduced. Species that traditionally required lengthy ritualistic greetings were conducting rapid-fire trades, caught up in the infectious energy of human-style commerce. "This is madness," Kilara whispered, her crystalline form vibrating with distress. "The established trade routes, the traditional partnerships, are still there for those who want them." Rajesh assured her, "We're just offering alternatives. Look there." She pointed to a corner where a group of Andromedans was teaching humans their solar harvesting techniques in exchange for terraforming technology. No credits exchanged hands. It was pure knowledge barter. A commotion drew their attention to another section of the floor. A Nexari bioship had experienced some sort of malfunction, its organic systems struggling with the station's artificial atmosphere. Before anyone could react, a team of human engineers was already rushing to assist, working alongside the mysterious aliens without hesitation. "They don't even know Nexari biology," Kilara protested. "We don't need to," one of the engineers called back, already deep in the ship's organic circuits. "We just need to understand the principles. Living systems are living systems, whether they evolved on Earth or in the Nexari Nebula." Vexthor watched in amazement as humans and Nexari worked together, combining their knowledge to not just repair the ship but improve its compatibility with standard space station environments. Within hours, the Nexari were offering to trade their bioorganic technology, something they'd guarded jealously for eons. "This is how it starts," Rajesh explained, her eyes gleaming with pride. "Not with grand treaties or century-long negotiations, but with people helping people, or beings helping beings, I should say." The trade summit continued for days, and Vexthor observed as ancient barriers between species crumbled. The humans had created something unprecedented, a neutral ground where traditional enemies could trade, where technological innovation spread rapidly through mutual benefit rather than careful regulation, and where the galaxy's diversity became a strength rather than a diplomatic obstacle. "They're going to change everything," Kylera said, her crystalline form now showing patterns of reluctant acceptance. "The Council can't stop this." "Would we want them to?" Vexthor asked, watching as a group of young Zalaxians eagerly traded their traditional knowledge of stellar cartography for human insights into quantum computing. "Look at our own people, Kylera. When was the last time you saw them so excited about anything?" The station's success sparked similar exchanges across the galaxy. Human-style trading posts began appearing in every sector, each adapting to local needs while maintaining the core principle of open, efficient commerce. The humans called it the market revolution, but to Vexthor, it was something more profound, the beginning of true galactic civilization. One evening, as he prepared to return to the Council station, Vexthor found Rajesh in an observation dome, watching ships come and go. "Your people have achieved something remarkable here," he admitted, "though I suspect the Council will see it as a threat to their authority." Rajesh smiled. "The funny thing about trade," she said, "is that it's really just a formalized way of helping each other. The Council sees power structures and protocols. We see connections waiting to be made, problems waiting to be solved together." As if to emphasize her point, a massive Nexari ship arrived, its bioorganic hull now seamlessly integrated with human design technology. It was neither purely Nexari nor human in design, but something new, a physical embodiment of what happened when species truly cooperated. "Perhaps," Vexthor mused, "that is why your Concordia succeeds where centuries of Council regulations failed. You didn't try to control the chaos of interspecies relations. You embraced it." "Chaos?" Rajesh laughed. "We prefer to call it creativity. And speaking of creativity," she handed him a data crystal. "Your people might be interested in some ideas we have about combining Zalaxian quantum architecture with Earth-based neural networks." As Vexthor left the station, he realized that humanity hadn't just created a new trading system. They'd fundamentally altered how species interacted with one another. The galaxy was becoming more connected, more dynamic, and paradoxically, more stable through controlled chaos than it had ever been through rigid order. The humans were here to stay, and they were teaching the galaxy to dance to a new rhythm. The first sign of trouble came when the swarm ships appeared on the edge of Concordia's sensor range. The Drachnid Collective, a species known for their aggressive expansion and disregard for diplomatic niceties, had finally decided to test humanity's growing influence in the galaxy. Admiral Priya Patel stood on the bridge of the TDF Hyperion, her expression grim as she studied the tactical display. The Drachnid ships outnumbered the human fleet 3-1, their biomechanical vessels bristling with weapons that had devastated countless civilizations before. "They're targeting the civilian sections of Concordia first," her XO, Commander Jackson, reported. "Standard Drachnid tactics. Go for the soft targets to demoralize the defenders." Priya's lips curved into a slight smile. "They really don't understand us at all, do they?" The Drachnid fleet's first volley never reached the station. A network of shield generators, the same type that had protected the Council station months ago, sprang to life. But these weren't just human shields. The technology had been enhanced with Nexari bioorganic components and Zalaxian quantum matrices, creating a defense system unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "All ships, execute Operation Firewall," Priya commanded. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, but not in the rigid formations the Drachnids expected. Instead, they scattered in seemingly random patterns, each ship acting independently while somehow maintaining perfect coordination. Vexthor, who had insisted on staying aboard Concordia during the crisis, watched in fascination. "Their ships move like a swarm themselves," he observed to Rajesh, who stood beside him in the station's command center. "But there's no central control. Distributed command structure," Rajesh explained. "Each captain has authority to act independently within mission parameters. We learned long ago that rigid hierarchies don't survive contact with chaos." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The human ships darted between the much larger Drachnid vessels, using their enemies' size against them. When the Drachnids adapted, the humans changed tactics immediately, demonstrating a flexibility that their opponents couldn't match. But it was more than just tactical brilliance. The humans had transformed their defensive technology into a weapon. Every time the Drachnid ships fired, the enhanced shields didn't just block their attacks. They redirected the energy, feeding it back into Concordia's defensive systems. Impossible. A Drachnid commander transmitted across all frequencies. Our weapons are overwhelming. You cannot survive. That's the thing about humans, Priya responded, her voice calm as her fleet executed another impossible maneuver. We don't accept impossible as an answer. The tide turned when 3 Nexeri bioships emerged from FTL, their hulls integrated with human weapon systems. They moved in perfect synchronization with the human fleet, as if they trained together for years instead of weeks. More allies arrived: Xylaxian quantum ships, Andromedan solar harvesters converted to military use, even a contingent of Meridian defenders. You see, Rajesh said to Vexthor, gesturing at the tactical display, this is why we built Concordia. Not just for trade, but for friendship, for alliance. The Drachnid fleet, faced with weapons and tactics they'd never encountered, began to retreat. But the humans weren't finished. Admiral Patel ordered her fleet to escort the Drachnids back to their territory, not to pursue and destroy, but to ensure they left peacefully. You could crush them, Vexthor noted. After what they tried here, no one would blame you. We could, Priya agreed over the comm. But that's not who we are. We'll fight to protect others, but we don't believe in unnecessary destruction. Instead, we're going to do something the Drachnids won't expect. We're going to offer them membership in the Concordia Exchange. The aftermath of the battle brought more changes. Species that had been hesitant to align with the humans now sought closer ties. The defensive technologies developed for Concordia were shared freely with any peaceful civilization that wanted them. Even the Drachnids, after their initial shock, sent observers to learn more about this strange species that fought with such skill, yet showed mercy to their enemies. They're calling it the Pax Humana, Nixus reported to Vexthor weeks later. Not because humans rule, but because they've shown us a new way to maintain peace, through cooperation rather than domination. Vexthor watched as human engineers worked alongside dozens of species to strengthen Concordia's defenses, freely sharing their knowledge while incorporating innovations from others. The station had become more than a trading post. It was a symbol of a new galactic order, one based on mutual defense and shared progress. The humans have done more than just survive in our galaxy, he mused. They've taught us how to be better versions of ourselves. As if to emphasize his point, a Drachnid diplomatic vessel docked at the station, the first step in what would become a long journey from adversary to ally. The humans had achieved through openness and determination what countless species had failed to do through force. They had begun to change the very nature of galactic civilization. The humans were here to stay, and they were teaching the galaxy that true strength comes not from dominance, but from unity. The discovery happened in one of Concordia's numerous research labs, where human scientist Dr. Samira Patel, no relation to the Admiral, had been working with a diverse team of xenophysicists. What they found would shake the foundations of galactic science. It's not just theoretical, Samira explained to a stunned audience of the galaxy's leading minds. Her holographic display showed something that should have been impossible: a stable quantum bridge between normal space and subspace, maintained at room temperature. The Xylaxian chief scientist, master theorist Zelnek, examined the data with all 4 eyes widened in disbelief. This violates the fundamental laws of trans-dimensional physics, he protested. We've known for millennia that stable quantum bridges require near absolute zero temperatures. Samira grinned. We knew that too, until we stopped knowing it. Sometimes the best discoveries happen when you forget what's supposed to be impossible. The breakthrough had come from an unlikely combination: human quantum computing theories, Nexari bioorganic technology, and Drachnid energy manipulation techniques. 3 species that would never have worked together before Concordia had just revolutionized faster than light travel. Think about what this means, Samira continued, her excitement infectious. No more massive energy expenditure for FTL jumps. No more limitation on ship sizes. We could build stable wormholes between any 2 points in space. The implications were staggering. The entire galactic economy was built around the limitations of traditional FTL travel. Trade routes, colonial expansion, even military strategy. Everything would change. Vexthor, attending the presentation as the Council's observer, felt a familiar sense of impending chaos. The Council will want to regulate this technology, he warned. They'll insist on centuries of testing, committees to study the societal impact. Already done, interrupted Rajesh, appearing at his side. We've been testing it in isolated systems for months, and we're releasing all the research data publicly, right now. What? Vexthor's mouth tentacles twisted in shock. But the patents, the proprietary advantages, are less important than progress, Samira finished. This technology belongs to everyone. We learned it from the Shield Generator project. When we share innovations, they improve faster than any single species could manage alone. The announcement sparked a revolution in scientific cooperation. Research teams across the galaxy began experimenting with the new principles, finding applications the original inventors hadn't even considered. The Andromedans used it to enhance their solar harvesting capabilities. The Meridians applied it to their ancient transportation networks. Even the traditionally secretive Drachnids contributed their findings to the growing pool of knowledge. But it wasn't just about the technology. The success of the Quantum Bridge project demonstrated something more profound: the power of combining different species' perspectives and knowledge. Labs across the galaxy began adopting the human model of diverse research teams, leading to an unprecedented surge in scientific breakthroughs. They changed how we think about discovery itself, Zelnak admitted to Vexthor months later, as they watched a demonstration of the first commercial quantum bridge drive. We were so focused on preserving and slowly expanding our knowledge that we forgot the joy of pushing boundaries. The new drives were being installed in ships of all species, standardized through a cooperative effort that would have been unthinkable before. But more importantly, the success had sparked a wave of similar cross-species research projects. The humans' enthusiasm for innovation had proven contagious. Look at this, Rajesh said, showing them the latest data from Concordia's research division. Teams are combining technologies in ways we never imagined. The Nexari and Drachnids are working together on biomechanical enhancements. The Zalaxians and Meridians are revolutionizing computational theory. Every day brings new breakthroughs. The Council, predictably, tried to assert control over the rapid pace of innovation. They established committees, drafted regulations, and issued stern warnings about the dangers of uncontrolled technological advancement. But it was too late. The humans had demonstrated a better way: open cooperation, rapid iteration, and shared success. The galaxy's species had tasted the freedom to innovate without artificial constraints, and they wouldn't go back. You know what the truly remarkable thing is? Samira asked Vexthor as they watched another successful test of the quantum bridge technology. None of these discoveries were beyond our species' capabilities before. We just needed someone to show us how to work together. A Drachnid scientist nearby nodded in agreement, their fearsome appearance softened by genuine enthusiasm. The humans taught us that our differences are not obstacles to be overcome, but resources to be combined. As Vexthor prepared his report for the Council, he realized that this latest development was just another step in humanity's transformation of galactic society. They hadn't just brought new technology. They'd brought a new way of thinking about progress itself. The humans were here to stay, and they were teaching the galaxy to dream bigger than ever before. The void storm appeared without warning, a massive disturbance in space-time that threatened to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. It emerged near the galactic core, expanding at an alarming rate, consuming everything in its path. The calculations are clear, Zelnak announced to the Emergency Council assembled on Concordia. At its current rate of expansion, the storm will destabilize major portions of the galaxy within months. No single species has the resources to stop it. The gathered representatives erupted in panic. Even the normally stoic drachnids showed signs of distress. Traditional protocol would have called for years of deliberation, careful analysis of political implications, and lengthy negotiations over responsibility and resources. But humanity had changed the rules. Admiral Patel stepped forward, her holographic form flickering slightly as she transmitted from the front lines. "We don't have time for politics. Every species, every ship, every scientist. We need everyone working together on this." "Impossible," a council elder protested. "The coordination alone would take years." "No," Samira interrupted, pulling up complex calculations on the main display. "We already have the framework. Concordia's communication networks, the quantum bridge technology, our combined scientific databases. We built this infrastructure for trade and research, but now it will help us save our galaxy." What followed was unprecedented in galactic history. Under joint human-alien leadership, a plan emerged that would have been impossible just years before. The Nexaries bioorganic technology would be combined with Drachnid energy weapons, powered by Andromedan solar collectors, coordinated through Xylaxian quantum computers, and delivered via human quantum bridge drives. "Every species brings something essential," Rajesh explained as massive fleets assembled near Concordia. "This isn't just about pooling resources, it's about combining our unique perspectives and abilities." Vexthor watched in amazement as former enemies worked side by side, racing against time to implement the plan. Humans served as the connective tissue, their adaptability and diplomatic skills helping bridge cultural and technological gaps between species. The first attempt to contain the Void Storm failed spectacularly. The second nearly succeeded but fell short. Yet instead of descending into blame and recrimination, the gathered species did something remarkable. They learned, adapted, and tried again. "This is what humanity's greatest gift to us has been," Vexthor realized, watching teams of mixed species rapidly redesigning their approach. Not their technology or their trading systems, but their relentless determination to keep trying, to find a way no matter what. The third attempt began with a massive coordinated effort. Thousands of ships from dozens of species moved in perfect harmony, implementing techniques and technologies that hadn't existed months ago. Human captains called out encouragement to alien crews. Drachnid warriors fought alongside Nexari pilots. Ancient rivals combined their strengths in ways that would have seemed impossible before. As the combined fleet engaged the Void Storm, something extraordinary happened. The quantum bridges, enhanced by every participating species' technology, created a network that allowed them to manipulate the very fabric of space-time. The Void Storm, faced with the united will of the galaxy's civilizations, began to collapse in on itself. "It's working," Samira breathed, watching the readings. Every species' contribution was essential. We couldn't have done this alone, any of us. When the storm finally dissipated, the celebration that erupted on Concordia transcended species boundaries. Ancient enemies embraced. Traditional rivals shared drinks. The barriers that had divided the galaxy for millennia continued to crumble. "The humans were right all along," Zelnak said to Vexthor as they watched the festivities. "Our differences weren't weaknesses to be overcome. They were strengths waiting to be combined." In the aftermath, the galaxy changed permanently. The Council's authority was peacefully transferred to a new collaborative body, one that emphasized cooperation over control. Trade and scientific research flourished as species barriers continued to fall. The lessons learned in fighting the Void Storm led to new technologies, new alliances, and new ways of thinking about what was possible. Years later, Vexthor stood in that same observation dome, where he had first watched human ships dock at the Council station. Now, the view showed a transformed galaxy, ships of all species moving freely, massive engineering projects undertaken by unified teams, and the first signs of truly integrated galactic civilization. When we first arrived, Rajesh said, joining him at the viewport, everyone thought we were too rushed, too aggressive, too willing to ignore tradition. They didn't understand that we could see the potential, not just in ourselves, but in every species we met. Vexthor's mouth tentacles formed what humans had learned to recognize as a smile. "The humans are here," he said, but this time the phrase carried no trace of concern or condescension. Instead, it was filled with hope and appreciation for what humanity had helped them all become. The humans were here to stay, and they had taught the galaxy that together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve.